Event and Risk Management webinar. My name is Katie Meehan. I'm the assistant to the Director of Standards, or one of the assistants, and with me tonight is also Sam Betcho, who is the Risk Management Chairman. And this webinar is just to bring everyone together to show how these three positions should work, can work and should be working together to solve any potential issues. In this webinar, we are going to be discussing the execution of and monitoring of events, the referral to the Standards Committee, what that looks like, Silver Sisters, and also unofficial events. So Sam's going to start it off.
So most of you know, if you're Risk Management Chairman, that your responsibility is not actually to do the actual planning of the event, but just to make sure that the risk management policies and procedures for CAPA are followed for all of our events. You're going to be the consultant to the event chairman, who is doing all of the detailed work and the detailed planning for the event. Another real important part of your role is to make sure that you educate your chapter on what the risk management procedures are for the fraternity, and as well as for your chapter, and what the expectations of behavior are for those who are attending this event. Just a little reminder that EPS and the required paperwork needs to be submitted to the regional risk management specialist 3 weeks in advance. And you're going to include all of your required signatures and documents. If you're still waiting on a contract or waiting on an item of paperwork, please still send your EPF in 3 weeks in advance, and just let her know that the rest of the documentation will be coming ASAP. And just a reminder that CAPA chaperones are required for any CAPA event that has alcohol present. The chaperone is going to be in the best position to help the security monitor that event, because they understand what our rules and regulations are. If you are having trouble finding a chaperone for your CAPA event, the PDC can grant an exception for that. And if you're not going to have a chaperone there, you know you need to hire extra security to be present for the event to help with the monitoring event. And that's obviously a chapter expense. The event chairman then is going to arrange to have members stationed at the bus check-in, and then also to work on monitoring of the event while the event is going on. So at bus check-in, the role is just going to be to evaluate those who are coming to attend the event and send home anybody who appears to be intoxicated or who appears to have done some drinking prior to the event. Those people are not allowed to attend the event. Members of the chapter council, then the event committee and risk management committee should keep an eye out on the attendees during the night. And it may not be all of these people. I think that it makes sense to just sort of take turns with that role, so that you're not always monitoring the event. You can actually enjoy the event without having to have the eagle eyes on everybody all the time. Their role is just going to be to make decisions about who needs to be sent home during the course of the night, including dates that maybe are acting out and need to be sent home. And if you are monitoring the event, you do, and over the age of 21, you do not have to remain sober during that event, but you do need to be responsible and able to step up. So you're obviously going to have to watch the amount of drinking that goes on during that time. And then the risk management chairman should, as well as the VPS, should be consulted when somebody is sent home. And that's really to make sure that whoever is being sent home isn't going home by herself. And then the cab that you're using to send that person home is being paid for by CAPA. That's going to be part of your event, the budget for the event.
So after the event is over, then becomes the time to address any issues that came up with the Standards Committee. So either the event chairman or risk management chairman should compile a list of any members who were refused admittance to the event, or sent home partway through, or somehow caused another disturbance. And really you should be talking to a lot of people to come up with this list. So anyone who was the bus captain, who was in charge of check-in, your chaperones, chapter council, event committee, all of these people who were kind of monitoring the event should be spoken with, just to make sure that your list is addressing every issue that came up during the event. That person who's compiling the list would then provide the list to the Standards Committee liaison to the risk and event chairmen, and it needs to be in a timely manner following the event. A lot of chapters might have frequent events, so we want to address one issue before the next event is coming up. So it really should be within a couple of days of the social event that list is getting handed over to the Standards Committee. The list needs to include the member's name, obviously, and what exactly happened. Was it that she was sent home because of drinking? Did she not take the bus home? Specifically what happened so that the standards committee can address it appropriately. If there's a large, like a big situation that happened at the event, either the event chairman or the risk management chairman can meet with the full standards committee to further discuss the specific situation and the details. It would be handled in a conference setting during the standards meeting. The officer would come in to explain what happened, and then she would leave as the committee discusses what the next steps would be. That the event chairman, the risk management chairman are not involved in the decision of who's actually called into standards. It's just they're referring a list of people to standards for standards to make the next steps. The standards committee will discuss all the evidence that they have and the list that they were given, and they'll schedule conferences for any members they wish to meet with. Again, just because they're given somebody's name doesn't mean they necessarily have to call them in. It's the standards committee's prerogative to choose which situations that they're addressing. Hopefully, any event social issues are all being addressed, though. While you're meeting with the members in the conferences, the standards committee should be reviewing any applicable laws as well as our risk management guidelines and our expectations of the behavior of our members. Remember, we do wear letters 24/7, and underage drinking is illegal, and so all of those things need to be addressed with them so that the members can say that they're fully informed of what our policies and our expectations are. There is the suggested guidelines for specific situations document, which should be reviewed for ideas on how to handle behavior issues as well as probation term ideas. And that document, if you haven't taken a look at it yet, is great because it breaks it out into every issue that you could be addressing. So there's an alcohol section, there's an event contract section. If maybe the member's just not riding the bus home, that's a little bit more tailored to those specific issues. So you guys should be checking that out prior to meeting with members, but then also after you meet with them initially before you come up with the next steps to make sure that everything's being handled at the best way so that the term and the actions that your committee is taking is appropriate for what the member did. The next thing we're going to discuss is Sober Sisters. A lot of chapters are starting to do this, and it's designating specific members to remain sober and be in charge of the rest of the chapter membership during social events. Sometimes it's required by your university or your campus Panhellenic. Some other chapters are just doing it. CAPA stands and our insurance company, MJ Insurance, we don't want chapters using Sober Sisters unless it's mandated by your university or your campus Panhellenic. The reason being is it puts members who don't have proper training and may not be fully aware of our risk management guidelines in a position to have to keep watch and decide when enough is enough for another member. And it's putting liability on people who aren't prepared for that. And it can get very awkward for some women, if you have a freshman member who is either newly initiated or not initiated yet, and she's a sober sister, and she has to tell a senior member of your chapter that she's had too much to drink and she needs to go home. It's a very awkward situation for that person acting as a sober sister. If your school or university, if your university or your campus Panhellenic requires you to use Sober Sisters, you do need to submit your policy in writing to the Director of Standards, the Assistant Director of Standards, and the Chairman of Risk Management to make us all aware that you're doing it because your school requires it, and to kind of be granted an exception to our request that no chapters use this. And then that way we have it documented what your school requires, and we can make sure that you're following that requirement and we're not telling you not to do it. If your chapter is one that isn't required by your university or campus Panhellenic to have Sober Sisters, but you have been doing it in the past, and the Sober Sisters are coordinated by the event chairman or the risk management chairman, an alternative to that is bus captains should always be selected from chapter council or your event committee. So they're people who are aware of the risk management policies, and that's in the risk management and event chairman leadership guides, is that they need to be selected from these two groups of women. Also, wristbands always need to be provided by security at the venue. You should never have chapter women putting wristbands on other chapter women, just because the security is aware of IDs, they know to check which ones look fake, and they're also more responsible to make sure that only the women who are of age and the guests who are of age are the ones getting the wristbands and can be drinking. If you're using Sober Sisters as a probation term, like you're assigning a member who is placed on probation to be Sober Sister at the next event, you need to remind your members who are under 21 that it's against the law for them to have or consume alcohol, so they should be sober regardless of their classification at the event. If your members are over 21, you kind of have two options. They need to be encouraged to drink safely and responsibly. In the real world, outside of college, you're going to have events where alcohol is present, but you cannot be drinking a lot at that event, whether it's a networking event or a corporate function. You need to be able to have, and our members need to learn how to drink responsibly and be able to have a glass or two and still have fun and not feel the need to be drinking a lot. You can recommend additional education or resources if needed. There is an option to have a probation term be that the member needs to remain sober at the next social event, but you cannot require that member to have to attend that event. Or just because you're telling her that she has to be sober, she cannot be in charge of that next event. It is the member's prerogative to say, I don't want to attend the social event. Social events are not mandatory. So you may say, Susie Sorority needs to be sober at the next event, and she can choose not to come, and that's fine. But that is an option if your committee feels like that is warranted for the situation.
So one of the things that we've noticed over the last few years is many of our chapters have been getting in trouble at the university level for what they're calling unofficial events. The chapter is actually calling that. So by their definition, the unofficial event is not been registered with the regional risk management specialist. No EPF has been filled out. No official paperwork has been turned in for that. From the university's perspective, they've looked at those who have been in attendance at this event and they say, hey, that's a CAPA event. So truly the unofficial ones are all about the perception of those from outside the chapter. The university official, your mom, your grandma, even your roommate might take a look at the crowd that's there and decide that this is a CAPA event. There's no set number of people that determines that this is a CAPA event or not. And you may not feel like it's yours, but if you're, the example that I can always come up with is that maybe you're living in an off-campus house or apartment, your roommates are all CAPAs, the people that you've invited to your party are all CAPAs. If those and their dates maybe or other guests that they bring, someone from the outside looking at that is going to say, hey, this is a CAPA event. And if the crowd gets rowdy and things get a little bit out of control, it's going to be, you're going to get in trouble as a chapter because of this unofficial CAPA event. Of course, anytime it's announced to the chapter membership, it becomes a CAPA event. It can be a Facebook post, a group text, any comment at a chapter meeting, anything along those lines is going to make that now become a CAPA event because it's been announced to our membership. If you guys have any questions on any of the topics that we've covered, please feel free to contact us. Our email addresses are up here on the screen for you, and we'll give you just a second to write them down. You can also, of course, find our contact information in the yellow pages as well. Thanks a lot for attending tonight and paying attention and listening along with us. We appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.